I used to think naively that the more senior you got, the fewer politics there'd be. Like, you're the guy, like, so why would there be any politics? And
I thought that too, actually.
Yeah, you know, and it's
all I ever dealt with once I became creative director was new business, which I loved, and problems. If something was going well, nobody wanted me. They had all the people in the day-to-day business who they loved, but if something went wrong, I was brought in, often too late. So all I had were problems and new business, which was very stressful. And I was lonely. I didn't hear any rumors anymore. I used to hear all the rumors.
That's right.
You know?
The filtering. Running an organization, being a CEO is just a really lonely, very lonely place. I really believe in executive coaching. I needed that sounding board, and it was very helpful. You are, in some ways, you're vulnerable. You know, you're sort of, you have all of this power, but at the same time, you're very vulnerable and very exposed. So it's a
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a weird set of dynamics.
For many, many years at McCann Erickson, I was the only woman in the room. At the beginning, I thought it was really, this is so cool, I'm the only woman in the room. And then after a while, it really got to be annoying. I didn't want to have a lot of credit given to me because I was a woman and I had, you know, survived to a point where I could actually have a position at the top. But did you feel that way?
For me, I had the good fortune, I mean, again, blessing or curse of being the only one or one of few from a very early age. I mean, I left, and since then have been in environments where there have been very few minorities, very few African Americans. So, you know, it's like a skill set that you, you know, that you develop. I mean, it's sort of like, you know, I think one of the advantages of being on the margins is that you have a different toolkit, and so you don't have to. You have to understand the rules of the game, but you, at least I, have other mechanisms and strategies for managing there. The world is so complicated, and what's required of leadership is so multifaceted and ever-changing that it's naive to think that you can be just because you're the leader, that you have the answer.
Nobody really teaches you to be a leader. You know, like, you want to be a leader because you don't want somebody else, you know, telling you what you can do. I mean, most creative people, they say they want to climb the ladder. They want to get to be creative directors. They want to be group creative. I said, why do you want to? Why? Because we don't want somebody telling us whether our work is good or not. I said, there's always going to be somebody telling you whether your work is good or not. You never get out of that. You never get away from that. The ability to read a room, which I think is very important, and women tend to do this a little better than men, sorry, is because you're a room full of strangers, and you don't really know how they feel about you if you can't read the room.
I subscribe to this notion of post-heroic leadership, so sort of leader as facilitator. And today, like, the world is so complicated, and what's required of leadership is so multifaceted and ever-changing that it's naive to think that you can be just because you're the leader, that you have the answer.
It's a lot easier to be a dictator, to say, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, come back at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning and we'll review everything you've done.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a broad range of styles.
A lot of people don't have that range. And I would talk to students and telling them that, not recruiting, but telling them that advertising wasn't the evil empire. And then I would say, you know, how many people here would like a career in advertising? They all came to see me for some reason. And I noticed that none of the kids of color raised their hands. And I said, how come you're not interested in advertising? And you know what they said. They said, my parents worked really hard to send me to a really good school, or any school at all, and I'm the first one in my family to even go to college. And you know, they want me to have a good job. They want me to be a doctor or a lawyer or a banker or something. They don't want me to go into advertising. And I thought, holy cow.
And it's a similar story for me. I mean, I was first generation college. And a lot of it is about role models and context, right? It's sort of like, you know, you look to older people and you look for the esteem of the people around you, right? As a source of motivation for what you do. And, you know, in the Black community, at least, there just isn't that context. When I made the transition to the digital world into advertising and media, which was really the shift from Bain to then Avenue A, now Razorfish. In some ways, the media marketing business was more of a liberation because there's an openness. It's a progressive environment. It's creative. It's about ideas. You know, and so I think that creative underpinning is something that can make it more welcoming, or at least more open. When I left Bain and joined Avenue A, now Razorfish, you know, I mean, there was this sense that the internet was going to take over the world. Now, we all know that that didn't really happen, and that, you know, that other channels are important as well. But yeah, in '99 when I left because I had this sense that this technology change was going to radically shift the way many businesses operate. The more ideal sort of agency partner is one that does think about technology as an enabler. You know, like one of the things that we're doing at Google is trying to codify and create a platform around insights, for instance, in terms of how insights are consolidated and the access points that, say, planners would have around insights. So I think, you know, a lot of agencies, they don't really have very good knowledge management systems. You know, they don't, yeah, everything's sort of band-aided, and, you know, I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, but I think the ones that invest in that kind of infrastructure that allows them to get to information, data, insights, those sorts of things, I think that's the future. I think that's pretty important.